Hey guys, this is Tina with Rehatched Designs. I had some people requesting how I made this journal that I showed people the other day, and rather than reply to all those people in detail, I thought what I'd do is make a quick tutorial, let you guys see how I did it. And also, this was my first attempt at doing a junk journal, and for me, I originally had sewn in the signatures, and I hadn't redone the spine and did all that, and it was a lot harder than it looked from what I saw from other people doing it. And I've been crafting for a while, and I just think that this way of doing it might be easier for beginners. And then that way they might have some more success, and they can kind of learn and ease their way into making junk journals. Anyway, let me show you really quick what it is I'm trying to accomplish here. I had originally made this junk journal where I had sewn in the signatures, and then I had made it so chunky that I ended up taking it apart because it was so big that, I mean, it's chunky now, but it was at least twice as big. And in the end, what I decided to do is put these grommets in the back, and I didn't even do them all that straight, but I put these grommets in and put in these elastic bands, and these are a lot thicker than what you normally use when you're doing traveler's notebooks. Usually it's this, here, let me get this one out of the way. It's usually this thinner size that you use, and I tried it with that first, but I didn't really like, because my signatures were pretty good size, and I had a lot of stuff in them. They were kind of heavy. It just seemed very wobbly, and the structure wasn't very good. So I had these other bands, and I had gotten these from the dollar store, and I tried using these, and it worked a lot better. I'm going to show you real quick. These are pretty good size signature. I think I put 15 pages and on double sides, so there's 60 total pages, plus they have a lot in them, and there's 2 of them, and they pop right in and out with these bands. The bands are put on there, basically you just tie them after you put these grommets in. You just tie them through there, and then what I did is they come like this, and it was really kind of too loose with the way that they were set up, and also too, you have to thread them through there. So I cut these and I tied them tighter, and then I put some 3-in-1 glue on the ends, and at that point I wanted to tie the knots, make the knots look a little bit more decorative inside, and I just put a little piece of lace over them. But what that did is it made it a lot stronger, and it worked better with these bigger signatures too, because if you can see, here's the difference with the other bands. Now they work good, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't, they seem to move around more and they wobble more, and I'm sure you can double them and do whatever. But anyway, and I actually didn't like the way they looked. I thought these actually looked a little better. These are pink, they kind of go with the cover and everything. And the other thing is that if you're a newbie and you're just starting out, I don't think there's anything wrong with learning how to sew in signatures, but I figure this is kind of a 2-step process, because for me, first I had to learn how to sew the signature, and if you did multiple signatures, and then you had to learn how to sew them in straight correctly, make sure they weren't loose, and that was really the hardest part, is getting them in there and making sure they're straight and that kind of thing. Now I've done quite a few journals since I tried to do these. This was over a year ago, and I've gotten the system down. But I just think for a new person, this way you'll learn how to sew your signature, but you don't necessarily have to sew them in, which I think, you know, you can learn how to do that later, and then you're gonna end up with a really nice journal, because this thing, once you put them in there, as you can see, they go right in there. They will end up being structurally, you know, a pretty good journal. Let me get the middle of this, wherever that is. And not only that, you can reuse your cover again. And if you know, if you're using this journal for yourself and it's full and you want to make some more, then you can switch those out. Or if you're using it for a garden journal or something, and you use it for each season, and then you want to put more seasons in, or, you know, for each year, you can replace it. But anyway, what I'm going to teach people how to do is to do it like I did it. And, you know, that way, I think, you know, whether you're a new person or not, it gives you the option of doing it like this and reusing your cover. If you are a new person, I think this would be easier than, you know, learning how to, from scratch, do a journal, and sewing in the signatures, and you know, replacing the binding on a book, etc. This is a lot less steps, and I think in the end you end up with a, you know, a really nice journal. The journals lay flat pretty well, and you know, I think it's something that would benefit a lot of people. So anyway, I am going to try and do this, and do a tutorial and do it step by step. I am not used to doing it that way. I just kind of move around and do things, you know, when I need to, but I'm going to try and do this and make sense, so bear with me. I'm not saying that I've come up with this on my own. Honestly, I've seen it by other people. I'm just simply saying this is how I did it. And when I think about when I was trying to learn how to do a junk journal, I just think this might have been a little bit easier than, you know, just going right into sewing signatures and starting a book. Anyway, I'm going to show you what you need. This is probably going to end up being a two-part video because it will take a little time. So I'm going to show you what you need for your supplies, and if you'd like to, you know, do this along with me, you can get those, and I'll start it today, and then you can maybe get your things and catch up, and then we'll do it however many long it takes. It may be 2, it may be 3, I don't really know. And then, I don't know, we may go to the point of decorating it. I don't really know how far that will go, but I think this way, this may help some people. All right, first of all, what you're going to need is a book. Now, this book is the same size as the book I used before. I liked it because, especially for a first-time junk journaler, it wasn't too big. It wasn't an overwhelming task to decorate it, and it was easy to handle. And I actually liked the way it turned out because it just was very comfortable. This book happens to be I'd say about 5.5 inches by 7 3/4. Now the spine on this book is not very big. It is only about 1 inch. So here's the thing. I, on the other book, replaced the spine and put a new spine in it. You may not want to do that as a first-time junk journaler because that's a whole nother step and a whole nother process. But that's up to you. I mean, I think what I'm going to do for tutorial purposes is I'm not going to replace the spine in this book. What I'm going to do is I am going to do 2 signatures, but with 10 pages each, and just make it just a smaller journal. Since the signatures are replaceable, and you know, you can just insert another one in there anytime you need to. So, and I also think that way too for the beginners, then they don't have to worry about that process, and they can, you know, have success the first time out, and then maybe later on, you know, they can learn how to replace the spine in it. Okay, so you're going to need a craft knife because you're going to take apart this book. You'll need a pair of scissors. You may not need these today. I don't do this till later, but you're going to need some of these eyelets. I don't know, or grommets. I don't know which ones are called, but you're going to need some of these and a way to punch a hole and to set them. Now I have this We Are Memory Keepers. I love this thing. It punches holes and it sets them. You can get these at any craft store, you know, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Joann's, and I got this and used a 40% off coupon. And I mean, I use it all the time. And the reason I like it is because it will punch through, you know, cardboard and chipboard and that kind of thing, and like this book cover and all that. You can buy these in small packets also. And what color you want or whatever, that's up to you. They come in all different kinds. But anyway, you'll need that. You can buy a tool to set it that is not like the We Are Memory Keepers, and you know, they'll come like this, and they're a little cheaper, and you know, then you use a little hammer with it. I've had this, but ever since I've gotten that, I haven't really messed with it. But I would say that that's worth it, but that's up to you. Also, you're going to need some sort of elastic. I got a set of these when I did the other ones at the dollar store for $1. These are black. They come multicolors, you know, and you're going to need the bigger one for the book. I think let's see, I don't remember what color. I think I'm using, I think I'm using these turquoise on this book. But you are going to need 2 of them. But they do come in a set as $1. They sell them at Walmart, whatever. You can't use one of these because these are not, unless your book's really, really small, this won't work. So, you know, so don't get anything like that. You could, if you have the elastic, the thinner elastic, you could use that. But like I said, I actually had used this at first, and I did not think that it held as well as the bigger one. But you could use that. Maybe you could double it. But personally, I don't know, I kind of like the way these ended up looking, and I think it held it together a lot better. So anyway, I'll be using those. On your book, because this is an older book, and also I think I do this anyway, regardless if it's older or not, I use something called tie back. And what that does is, once we take these pages out of this book, you're going to see that the binding is kind of weak and loose, and you don't want it to fall apart after you go through the trouble of doing this book. So what you're going to be using this for is you're going to use it to cover the spine, okay, to reinforce it. And what tie back is it's a very heavy almost like plasticky type of material that you really can't rip. Now, you can get this. This comes in the envelopes. If you know somebody that works in an office where they're sending, you know, when they get packages and things, you could take that and cut it up and use it. And you don't have to use Tyvek either. You can use material. In fact, in my other book, if I get it, I did not use Tyvek because I honestly didn't know about it at the time. I had some very wide ribbon that I put on the inside of the book instead of Tyvek, and then later on I covered the inside with some burlap just for decorative purposes and to reinforce it. And on the outside I did the same thing. I had a grosgrain ribbon that was under here, and it was wide ribbon, and it went all the way here, and then on top of that I put lace, and then I Mod Podged over it, so it made it, you know, pretty sturdy. But you know, that's up to you. You don't have to do it, but it does keep your book together. And then especially if you're using an older book, they're going to be weaker. The other thing you can use is you can use a piece of material if you want to take like just a strip of material here and then later put one on the inside. That'll reinforce it. And then I know people that have used duct tape. They said duct tape because it's pretty strong. You could use a strip of duct tape right down here and then right over here, and that would do the same thing really. But anyway, I have 2 pieces of Tyvek that I will be using, and you will need an adhesive, a good adhesive. There's several different types you can use. I use a lot of times the 3-in-1 glue, or you can use the Fabri-Tac, which is basically the same thing, I believe. I think 3-in-1's a little bit cheaper. You could use Mod Podge, but I don't think it's quite as strong, and it's not as tacky as just tacky glue. And you can buy tacky glue at the dollar store. I mean, that's where I bought this. I actually like buying it there better because I like the smaller containers. I don't like a big thing of glue, so I usually buy the smaller ones. Some people use the Art Glitter Glue. I love this on paper, but I don't particularly like it to put covers on. I don't think it grabs as well. But I mean, people use it, and it also depends on what you're using for your cover. In this situation, I am going to be using, I'm making a butterfly journal, and I'm going to be using this paper on the outside. And I did use paper on my other one. This is paper here, and then I put these dragonflies and things on later. And I also put lace around the edges and things. I usually do that when I use paper just because I don't want it to fray or anything later. And then I had melted some beeswax on here, and that's not necessary. You can just use Mod Podge if you want to, but if we go through the process, I can show you how to do it. It's a very easy thing to do, and it kind of gives it a cool antique effect too. But that's something that you may, now I put book corners on mine. You don't have to do that, but they sell these again at Michael's or Joann's or whatever if you want to do that decoratively. If you want to put a tie on this, you can put it on the inside, you can put it on the outside. Now depending upon whether you want it on the inside or the outside, you kind of have to make that decision as you're putting the inside paper in. Or you can use material to cover your book with. A lot of people do that, and if you do that, then you kind of can skip the part with the tie back over here. Now some people do both. I don't when I'm using material. You could put material, you know, and cover the whole book, and then do material and cover the whole inside, and then you could skip the part where you're, you know, adding the tie back. And for some that might be easier. I just happen to have wanted to use this paper, so I'm adding the tie back. But if you have some material you like, you could certainly glue that material on here and then glue it on the inside, and then you wouldn't have to use the tie back, I don't believe. Like I said, some people will do both, but I don't think it's necessary if you do that. Anyway, I am going to be using this paper just because I've had it and I kind of wanted to do a butterfly journal. Oops, lost something there. Okay. Also on the inside, I will probably, on the inside binding and on the outside binding, I'm going to be putting a strip of this burlap paper. And it's actually burlap and it's on paper, and that actually helps to reinforce the spine also. But I think that's just going to look good with that. That mainly I'm doing it for aesthetics, but it will also reinforce the spine. Anyway, so the first thing that we need to do is we're going to take our book, and you can use an old book, a new book, whatever you want to do. But I will tell you, it is a lot harder on a new book, I think, to tear away the pages. It's, you know, just because it's newer. I think they glue it better now, so it may take a little bit longer. Anyway, you're going to need a craft knife, and so what you're going to do is carefully, away from you, start cutting the pages. And sometimes you'll do this and then they'll just tear right away. Other times you'll have to struggle. I don't remember on this one how hard it was, but you can go right in here, and what you're trying to do is try not to cut the spine, but you're trying to cut the pages away from the spine. So you're going to do that. And you know, if it's like, this is an older book and these pages are kind of nice and used, and you can kind of gauge whether you want to keep them or not. If you're new to junk journaling, you probably want to keep them, because we do use the pages a lot. Now you see how easy that tore out like that? If you have a newer book, it usually does not do that. So it's a little bit harder. But anyway, let's do that. Okay. And see, you can see that right now. See that right there? That's coming away from the spine. I don't know if you can see that. And so you would just kind of cut that out. I think I need a new craft knife. This one's not as sharp as it has been, but, and then that's what you're going to end up with. And you can see how that's not very, you know, it's kind of a canvasy material, but it's not very reinforced. And this is just like cardboard. So when you're making your junk journal, you want to reinforce all that, especially if you're going to be putting a lot of ephemera and stuff on it. You don't want it to go through all that trouble and then have it fall apart. So that's what the tie back's for. And like I said, you can use material. I used a ribbon. It was a very wide ribbon. And I said, I know people who've used duct tape. So, and they swear by duct tape. So I don't know. Anyway, so here's our pages. So we'll keep those. Then that's what you're left with. If you wanted to, you could cut the spine off of this and then make another spine and make it thicker. You could do that. This one's already, I must have cut that a little bit. This one's already doing, you know, falling apart. So, I mean, it would be an easy thing to do that. All you would do is get a piece of chipboard. If it's not as thick as this, then you may want to double it, glue it together, and then you would put it here, and then you basically would do the same steps that you're doing when you're doing this book, okay? But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. And I'm mainly doing that just because the fact that I think for a new person, this might be a little bit easier for them to do that. Okay, first of all, we're going to reinforce it. We're going to take our tie back. And I think, I'm wondering if I do that in half. That probably needs to be a little bit wider than that. Okay. So I'm going to take my paper cutter. And I have a smaller one here. I always keep that at my desk. And I'm going to take my paper cutter. And I'm going to make this, I am going to make it, all right, maybe 7 3/4. So that means this is already, I don't know, I think I'm going to cut off a little bit more. I'm going to take an inch off of both of these. That way, let me do that. I'll make them not quite as wide also. And then let's see, let's make them, I'm gonna make them about 3 inches, I think. That would be good. Because what you're doing is you're basically reinforcing the spine here, so you're not covering the whole book with it. So we're going to do that. And I am going to use tacky glue, I think, to put that down there. And I'm going to cover that right here. And I'm going to cover it back here. And that should reinforce my spine. On top of that, I'll be putting my paper on the outside, and then I'll also be putting some of my burlap paper too. So that'll help reinforce it. So let's do this. And I put quite a bit of glue on there. I don't know. One thing too I bought at the dollar store is this little thing, and I love it. You know, get your fingers all glued up. I use it all the time. I think what you're going to find doing it this way, you can really make a junk journal pretty easily, and it will go pretty quickly. Oops, I knocked over my pins there. Now I use a bone folder to kind of get in there and make sure it's all in there good. In any place. You will get a little sticky, but it's not going to be as much as if you use something else. Okay, and then remember too that you are going to be covering this up, so it doesn't have to be on there perfectly straight. One thing you're going to need usually is wipes. So I just have them all the time, so I don't think about it, but just get that all in there. Doesn't seem to be enough glue right here. There we go. So we're going to do that. All right. Then we will do the other side. we go again. I don't know what I think this is to apply a facial mask or something. It's in the cosmetic department, but it's not what I use it for, but it works great for spreading glue around. And you know, I just wash it off later, and if it gets too gunky, just like scissors or anything else, I just take cheap, you know, dollar store alcohol and spray it on there, let it sit for a little bit, and it wipes right off. Sometimes I take a little scrubby and scrub it off, and it works great. Anyway, and also the white too helps get it down in. Not only does it take away the mess, but oh, and that's another thing. I love having a glass mat. I used to just use a regular mat, and you know, it just did not clean out nearly. This is great. I love it. I really do. So if you get a chance, it's something that I would definitely try and use. So anyway, so this one just does not want to go down. I may have to use some 3-in-1 over there. I don't know if it's the material or what. This stuff is great. It grabs to anything. So you know what? I have one that's already open. I'll just use that real quick. I don't think I did that. There we go. Put that on there. It sticks to. It's great for material. When if you're doing journaling, at some point you'll be putting lace and material and all that stuff on, and I don't think there's anything that works better than this. Now, I think it's a little pricey, but a little goes a long way. The same thing with this art glitter glue. It's kind of expensive, but it is really good glue. It grabs really well on paper, and it dries really fast, and I love it. I think it's great, but you know, you'll find what you like the best. But all right, so now that's sticking better. So it'll dry in just a little bit. And like I said, we're going to be putting paper over it. And I think I'm going to do that and allow the glue to dry a little bit. I believe I'm going to put this on, well, maybe not. I can't decide, people. Gosh, I love these. I think, shoot, I don't know. I like them both for different reasons. I think I'm going to put this on the outside. So, what I'm going to do, I know I would love to be able not to use 2 pages, so oh, that's not sticking real good either. Okay. I think it doesn't want to stick to the outside of this real well. Okay. What I think I'm going to do is try and get, let's see, this is, I know I won't need to go all the way to the end, but I'm going to do 5 by, and I'm going to put lace on the end, so I'm going to do 5 by 7 3/4. All right. So I will be taking my regular paper cutter. Okay. I'm going to be letting that dry a little bit. So we are going to go okay, let's do the 7 is going to be that way, so we're going to want to go 7 and right there, right? Okay, so 7 3/4. And then 5. So we should be able to get 2 out of that very easily. Make sure that that's right. Oh, there we go. That looks good. I wasn't going to use this paper at first because it was a little busy, but I think I have an idea. Well, you know what? I'm going to need that again, so I'm going to put that. That's going to go there. And then I'm going to cut some pieces for the inside. So I think I'm going to use, I don't know, could not decide. I don't know. I think maybe this goes with it a little better. I guess, I don't know. I guess I'll use this one. We will use that one. Looks very similar. That's the problem. Let's see. I'm going to do this. All right. So 5 by 7 3/4. I guess this is the up and down. So 7 3/4 is going right here. Right. And make sure that you save all your pieces, because when you're making your junk journal, you'll be probably, you know, wanting to put some of the same type of papers on the inside for accents and things like that. So always save your scraps. And here we go. All right. So anyway, at this point, I think our tie back is probably dry enough. And what I would do is go ahead and put your other paper on there the way you're going to want it. All right, I think on this I'm going to go ahead and maybe I'll finish this one first. Is use this because it didn't seem to want to stick to it real well. So we'll go ahead and put this on, and then we'll put the inside on. And at that point, I think we'll call it a day, because I want to let this dry overnight. And then what we can do after that is we can continue this and possibly get the rest of the cover done, and maybe start getting some pages for the inside done. Now on the pages for this journal, I'm going to make it a writing journal, so I am not going to have as many decorated pages as I normally would have. And I've actually gotten to where on some of my journals what I'm doing is I'm making a lot of embellishments and paper clipping them in, and not so much decorating each page, because what I found was happening is my journals were getting so bulky when I was doing that I just, you know, I couldn't close them. So this way, if they get kind of bulky, you can take some stuff out. Also too, it gives you a lot more room to write in them. And I kind of think that, you know, that's what most people are doing with them, or put pictures or, you know, memorabilia and that type of thing. If they get too bulky, you can't really add anything to them. I mean, they look beautiful, don't get me wrong, but then you really have no way of using them. So if you're planning on using your journal, you have to be careful and not, you know, over embellish them. Or if you do, like I said, make it removable. And what I use is I use a lot of paper clips and clip things to them so that you can take things out. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on that. I mean, everyone's preference. I mean, some people don't care, and that's fine with them, but make sure we do the orientation. That's another thing. You know, you want to make sure if there's an orientation on your paper that you get that correct. Get some of that glue off of there. Anyway, that should stay down. And like I said, on the ends, I'm going to be putting some lace, kind of like I did on the other one, but this is going to be the basic, and it will have this on the outside too. I'm going to put that on there, but I don't want to put too many layers, I don't think, right now. We'll just give it a minute and then. All right, so this is going to go on the inside, and I think I'm going to use this glue for that because it seemed to work okay. So to me, this is the easiest way for a first-time junk journaler, other than possibly doing a ring journal. Now, a ring journal, you're not doing any sewing at all. You're basically just, you know, punching holes, and that would probably, I think, be the easiest. So if you know, if you want the easiest route, that's it. I'm doing this thinking that a person that would want to do this is wanting to learn how to do a junk journal and sew signatures and that type of thing. But I'm thinking what this does is it teaches you how to sew the signature, you know, reinforce your binding, that type of thing. So you get to learn that step, and then you can move on and graduate to sewing in the binding, or sewing in the signatures, removing the binding, putting in your own binding. You know, that's whole other processes. And I think when I first started doing it, I tried to do it all, and it was really overwhelming. And I think, you know, I've been a crafter for a while, and it was definitely doable. I didn't totally, you know, do bad at it, but I just think it was a lot of steps that you had to learn how to do. And I think this way you're easing your way into it. So okay, I think that is upside down. Let me see. Yeah, I did. I put that in upside down. It's a good thing I use this glue because it's gonna be here we go. That is upside down, folks. All right, that's another thing too. I think what I love about junk journaling is even if you do make mistakes, there are ways to fix it. I mean, if that was glued down and I couldn't get it up, I could just put something right over it, or maybe we wouldn't have even noticed, who knows. But anyway, this process to me would be a lot easier than the other way. And I don't know, I think so far there's nothing that's that hard, you know. Okay, so we put tie back on the outside, we put our papers on the inside and the outside, we put some tie back on the inside. Okay, now I think we'll do one more step and call it a day. I told you I was going to put my paper, and this is burlap paper. You could use real burlap too. I like this because it's easy to cut. It doesn't fray as much. So let me go ahead and figure out how wide I'm going to make this. I don't know. Let's see. I don't think I want 3 inches. I think maybe 2.5 wide. And we're going to make it exactly 7 3/4. So 3.5 wide, 7 3/4. Now what I do with this stuff, because it doesn't cut that great with your cutter, I do it on the paper side. So let's do the 7 3/4 first. Down at 7.5, 7 3/4. Let's see, if I didn't go all the way through, then you just can use your your scissors. But it does pretty good. At least then you have a nice straight line. Now I bought this in a paper pad, and I bought it and I didn't think, well, I'll never use that. I have used it so many times. I love it because it doesn't fray as much as regular burlap. It's easy to handle, and it really does reinforce the spine. Okay, so we're gonna do this 1.5. We decided. So, oh, I'm sorry, this way. 1.5. I don't know, is that going to be, I don't think so. Maybe 2. Look at that again. I don't know. 2.5. Yeah, it's 2.5. Not 1.5, 2.5. Good thing I checked. Now on junk journaling, I try my best not to measure as much as possible, so you may want to measure more, but I only measure when I have to, and everything else I love guessing, and I think that's why I like it. I don't do a lot of measuring, but there are some things you kind of have to, so this is probably one of them. Now the reason you may want to invest in this is that this will go through all those layers pretty easily as far as punching a hole through there. So I don't know, I think it's worth it. And I can't remember what I paid for it. I don't think it was more than I don't think it was more than $12 with the coupon, so it was well worth it. And I use it all the time. And they have the bigger one, and if I had it to do over, I would have bought the bigger one, because you can get further in on the page. All right. So, oh, that's going to look good, I think. That'll look good. All right, for that, I'm definitely going to use the 3-in-1 glue because it'll grab better. So, put that in there. I really just need to open up the other one, but I want to use all this because, like I said, it is more expensive, and I don't know, sometimes it's hard to get, so, but it works. I mean, it really works, and especially if you're doing any kind of lace or anything like that, oh my gosh, it just grabs better than anything, and it dries really quick too. That's another real big plus. Big plus. But it does get very goopy toward the end, and that, you know, it's kind of an issue, but it's a acetone based glue, so you can put a little acetone in there, but usually I use it up before it gets too bad because I use it a lot, and I know a lot of other junk journalers use it, swear by it, and love it. And I mean, I don't like to spend money on glue unnecessarily, but that's definitely worth it. And I think the art glitter glue is also. Okay, well, that's that. Let's do the other side. Now there is another way that you can make a book without having to sew in signatures at all, and that's called an altered book. And that's pretty much what you're doing, is you're ripping out pages and then you're gluing other pages together and then you're decorating them. And that probably would be easier, but I don't know that I'm necessarily going for easiest. I'm thinking that this would be a way to gradually learn how to do junk journals, where you're not just going in, you know, trying to sew the signature, you know, sew the signatures in, you know, remove the binding on an old book, put in a new binding. That's just a lot, I think, right off the bat, in my opinion. I don't know, may not bother some people, but I just think this is a way to learn how to do it, that you're not going to be, you know, trying to do too much too soon, or all at one time. Not necessarily too soon, but all at one time. Yeah, I did that pretty even. Okay. Now I'm going to wait for this to dry, and then we'll continue tomorrow, and then we'll also go ahead and punch our holes in tomorrow. And like I said, I'm going to make this 2 signatures, 10 pages each, and we will work on this more tomorrow. So anyway, that is part 1, and there'll be a part 2. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helps some people, and we'll get the rest of the cover done tomorrow, and then after that I think we can work on doing the pages and how you put them in and sew them. Okay, thanks a lot for joining me. So see you guys next time, and if you like this video, like it and subscribe. Thanks.